Okay, so you've probably seen the images, right? Cows just roaming freely in India. Sometimes they have garlands, maybe painted. They're
Mm.
really revered, almost like a sacred presence in everyday life. But what if this whole reverence for Gaumata, the mother cow, wasn't just, a spiritual thing?
What if it was more?
Yeah, what if it was actually about like stark survival back in ancient times? Today, we're really going deep into the fascinating kind of layered reasons behind it all. Let's unpack this.
Oh, it really is a deep dive. And our sources, they're incredibly diverse. We're pulling from ancient Vedic texts like the Rig Veda
Yeah.
that really grounds us historically,
Right.
all the way to, modern anthropology, even linguistics. There's this Odam theory, the human language idea.
Hmm.
It's quite a journey through the historical, biological, and those deep cultural layers that really shaped this reference.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive really is to uncover those surprising facts and hopefully deliver some genuine aha moments. Show how something so practical, so essential a lifeline, basically, could evolve into such profound spiritual symbolism. We want to go beyond the simple stuff, give you a really well-informed perspective on why the cow is just so sacred in India.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is that this reverence, it wasn't like a single event, not
Hmm.
one myth or some decree.
Right.
Our sources show it was a slow, layered transformation. It kind of moved step by step from pure practical survival towards this deep spiritual meaning.
Okay, so where does it start?
Well, we look way back, the early Vedic period, maybe 1500 to 500 BCE,
Mm.
texts like the Rig Veda, which is incredibly
Oh,
old,
the oldest, yeah.
they show cows were already symbols of like immense wealth and food security.
Mm.
The Sanskrit word go, it actually meant both cow and wealth.
Wow, okay, so it's right there in the language.
Exactly. That really shows
Yeah.
how central they were.
That initial connection to wealth, yeah, that makes sense. But here's where it gets really interesting and kind of counterintuitive.
Hmm.
Despite this reverence for wealth, those really early Vedic fire rituals, the yajna, they actually included animal sacrifice, sometimes even cows.
That's right. And that detail, it really shifts our perspective, doesn't it?
It really does.
It highlights that the absolute nonviolence we often associate with cows today,
Uh-huh.
it wasn't there from the very beginning. It developed pretty gradually over centuries.
It evolved.
Precisely. And that shift, it became much more pronounced later on in the later Vedic and Upanishadic periods, say after 600 BCE.
Okay.
That's when the concept of ahimsa nonviolence really gained significant traction in Hindu thought.
Oh.
And this was powerfully reinforced by the rise of Jainism and Buddhism, too, which were very explicit about condemning animal killing.
Okay, so other traditions influenced it too.
Absolutely. So by the time you get texts like the Manusmriti, maybe around 200 BCE to 200 CE, killing a cow wasn't just frowned upon, it was elevated to a Mahapataka,
A grave sin.
grave sin, exactly.
Okay.
And then you had kings, local rulers, and later on, these immensely influential Bhakti saints.
Right, the devotional movement.
Yes, especially those focused on Krishna. They actively spread this belief that, protecting cows was a real marker of righteous leadership.
So, okay, we have this gradual buildup of nonviolence, but then Krishna, you mentioned Krishna, how did his story specifically, like, amplify this? How did it embed the cow's sanctity even deeper into just popular practice?
Yeah, Krishna's role was pivotal, really
Right.
pivotal. In the Bhagavata Purana, for instance, he's depicted as Gopala.
Gopala, protector of cows.
Exactly, protector of cows. His entire childhood is set in Vrindavan, living among cowherds, the Gopas. And the stories, they're just filled with these incredibly intimate, emotional moments, Krishna stealing butter,
Classic.
playing his flute for the cows. It really shows this playful yet profound connection. These narratives, they forged an almost personal bond between the divine and the whole pastoral world.
So it makes the connection much more emotional, less abstract.
Totally. It's no wonder that rituals like Govardhan Puja, celebrating him lifting the mountain to protect the cows, or Gopashtami, they became so central. Krishna didn't necessarily start cow worship, but he made it deeply devotional, deeply personal, really central to the lives of, well, countless followers.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, this other idea, the cow as a second mother, Gaumata, it often sounds like a beautiful metaphor, right?
Mm-hmm.
But our sources seem to suggest it was much more literal, like a matter of life and death. Can you kind of walk us through the practical reality of that?
Absolutely. And this is really fundamental. Think about ancient times.
Mm.
Human mothers, they only lactate after giving birth. Right. So what happened if, tragically, a mother died during childbirth?
Mm.
Or maybe just couldn't nurse for some
Yeah,
reason?
infant mortality must have been high.
Exactly.
Mm.
And our sources confirm quite clearly that diluted cow's milk was often used to keep those babies alive. This wasn't just like a convenience food.
Mm.
This foster feeding, it was a literal lifeline for so many families. So for many people, the cow was quite literally a second mother, providing that essential nutrition when human milk just wasn't an option.
Wow. So, okay, while there isn't maybe some ancient myth we can point to saying, King X we saved by cow milk, therefore cows are sacred.
Right, no single decree like that recorded.
The social truth, the reality on the ground is undeniable. The cow actually saved countless human lives. It was this critical emergency nutritional backup.
Even if, technically, it lacked certain antibodies found in human milk, it was sustenance, it was life.
And it wasn't just the milk, right? The cow's utility was broader.
Yeah.
It permeated everything in ancient life.
Like completely, dung and urine.
Uh,
They were, and in many places still are, absolutely vital resources.
or fuel.
Fuel, fertilizer, even used as antiseptics in some traditional practices. The cow was integrated into the fabric of daily survival in so many ways.
So this context, it makes that idea you mentioned earlier seem very plausible.
Which idea was that?
The one about, a king. Our sources discuss this logical possibility that maybe in pre-literate times, some leader who was saved by cow's milk, out of sheer gratitude, could realistically have later made laws protecting them, turning that practical necessity into like a sacred command.
Exactly. Exactly. So for instance, the Sanskrit gao for cow, and maybe even related words like Odam for human in some Turkic languages, they're seen as preserving these incredibly old primal connections to survival.
So Gaumata,
In this light, Gaumata isn't just a nice phrase or a metaphor. It's like a direct echo, preserved in language, of that profound practical reality that literally sustained ancient societies. The very words we use carry this deep history.
what a journey. Okay, so pulling it all together then. It really wasn't a singular founder, not one myth that started it all, but many different reinforcers across different times that solidified the Kai's sacredness.
Precisely. That's the key takeaway.
Right.
No single founder, but rather many layers and many reinforcers.
Mhm.
You had the Vedic priests praising them as wealth, as mother figures. You had Jain and Buddhist thinkers elevating ahimsa, nonviolence, which naturally included cows.
Mm.
You had Krishna making the cow this beloved devotional symbol, deeply personal. And then you had kings like Ashoka much later banning animal slaughter for, broader moral reasons.
Though not because he was raised on cow milk.
Right. Not that specific story for him. But the point is, the Gaumata tradition, it's truly a rich cultural result. It's woven from all these threads: necessity, gratitude, evolving spiritual thought, not just a single royal decree from ages past.
It's truly eye-opening, isn't it? To understand the cow's sacredness through this lens. It feels like it reveals something deeper about us, about humans.
Yeah.
This tendency we have to imbue deep spiritual, deep cultural meaning into the very things that, well, most fundamentally sustain us.
That's a great way to put it.
So for you, our listener, maybe consider this as we wrap up. What other lifelines in your own life, or maybe in other cultures you know about, might have followed a similar path? Evolving from just practical necessity into something revered, something sacred. It's definitely a powerful thought to mull over long after this deep dive ends.